This was a terrible accident. Somebody should have realized that by now. A lot of people think that a trial is a dispute about the facts. Usually it's not. Usually a trial is a dispute about the conclusions to draw from the facts. Mr. Morris and I, we're probably going to agree on most of the facts. There might be one or two that we don't, but mostly we're going to agree. But we will disagree sharply about the conclusions that you should draw from those facts. Now, you have heard what Mr. Morris hopes to prove. But there's something you haven't heard yet. This gun is defective. It's broken. It malfunctions. It will shoot even when no one pulls the trigger. And the way that you will know that is true is because a witness will get on that stand from the New York State Police Laboratory, maybe the best in the country, and she will tell you that at least one time that gun that she tested fired when no one pulled the trigger. Now, she might be a little reluctant. She might hedge and hem and haw, but eventually she will tell you at least once when she tested it, that gun fired when no one pulled the trigger. She performed something called a drop test. Like the name implies, you'll load the gun with what's called an inert round. It has the primer, but it doesn't have any projectile that can come out. It simulates what a regular shotgun shell would be. And she loaded that shell in, and she dropped the gun, and was very, very careful to make sure that nothing could come in contact with the trigger. And the gun went off. This gun is broken. It's defective. It will fire when no one pulls the trigger. This was a terrible accident. Somebody should have realized that by now. But despite that, the prosecution will ask you to convict this man of these vicious, heinous crimes, acting with depraved indifference, with an evil, wicked intention, with a blackened heart. We believe the evidence will show differently, and you will conclude differently. So let's go back to April 15th. Kevin and his wife, Jinx, are in their home, the dream home that he built them. On the mountain, around 8 o'clock, they go to sleep. They go to bed. They watch a little TV in bed. They fall asleep around 8:30. Now, it's up on the mountain. To say it's rural is a stretch. This is in Hebron, up on the mountain. And maybe here in town we get a little spoiled because we have straight, flat roads that are paved with lines and crosswalks and signs and intersections. Not on Patterson Hill Road. It's a dirt road. Maybe even calling it a road is charitable. It's wide enough for one vehicle, two if you slow down to 5 miles an hour. It's out in the middle of nowhere, no lights, few neighbors, no activity. Maybe you hear crickets, maybe you hear a fox or a coyote. You don't hear traffic. They fall asleep around 8:30, and some people might think, well, that's pretty early. But Kevin's a builder. He and his wife are up at 4:30. She makes him breakfast, packs his lunch, and he's on the work site by 6:30. And he's an old man, and she's an old lady. They're in bed early. Unlike most nights when it's quiet, Kevin is awakened by the about 10 p.m. to the sound of a motorcycle roaring up his driveway. Now, you might not know what to look at, but Kevin knows his motorcycles. He races them. He's a national champion. He knows the sound of a motorcycle. He knows the sound it makes when it's in a particular gear. He knows the sound when it's come roaring up a driveway. And he knows the sound when it's outside his bedroom window, revving the engine. Now, the house, it's on a mountain, so it does have a basement. One side is open, that's the walkout, and the other side is below ground, below grade. There's a main floor. It's an open concept, an open design. So there's a main floor, like a living room. And then it has cathedral ceiling and windows, floor to ceiling. In the back, this is the living area. In the back, there's a kitchen, and above that is a loft. That's where Kevin and Jinx sleep. That's their bedroom. There's no wall between the loft and going down into the outside, downstairs area. It's open. So if you're in the loft and you walk to the edge, stairs to your left, you can look down into the main room, and in those floor-to-ceiling windows, you can look out over the valley. You can see for miles. And there's a wraparound deck that goes around all three sides. Kevin wakes up at around 10 o'clock to a motorcycle in his driveway, revving the engine. Vroom, vroom. Goes to his wife and wakes her up. Jinx, I don't know what this is. Get up, get dressed, hide here in the closet. Don't come out until I tell you to. And he hands her her revolver and some shells. And he gets his shotgun and he loads it with 3 rounds. And he walks down those stairs, out the door, onto that wraparound deck. He looks out and he sees a motorcyclist right in his driveway. And he looks down the driveway and he sees 2 SUVs parked about 100 feet away, blocking the only way out of this house for this old man and this old woman. The motorcyclist, who's maybe 20 feet away, doesn't say anything, doesn't get off his motorcycle, doesn't acknowledge Kevin. Instead, what he does is he revs his engine and he waves up the 2 SUVs. They don't move, but he doesn't leave. Kevin holds his gun up in the air. Doesn't point it, doesn't aim it, just holds it. It's like a rattlesnake's rattle. It's a warning. Stay back. I can defend myself. Please leave now. And it works. The motorcyclist drives down the driveway. Good. Maybe this problem is over. And he looks down the driveway. And the motorcyclist stops between the 2 SUVs that are parked side by side, blocking the only way out for this old man and this old woman. Now, I told you it's a wraparound deck, but the ceiling, the roof, comes over the top. So Kevin moves to the side and fires a warning shot in the air. Again, a warning. And it seems to work. The motorcyclist leaves. He drives down the driveway, around the bend, all the way to the bottom. Now the driveway is about a quarter-mile long. This is not a 30-foot driveway in the city. He doesn't quite leave all the way. He seems to stop at the bottom of the driveway with his hand up to his head, like he has a phone. Who's he calling? Could be the people in the SUVs. Could be for directions. Could be for reinforcements. Kevin doesn't know. And then the two SUVs that are parked, blocking the only way out of this house for this old man and this old woman. They don't back up. They don't turn around. They come closer and closer and closer until they get up near the deck, that wraparound deck. They get up near the downhill side of that wraparound deck. And then they do start to turn around. And Kevin has his gun, but he doesn't aim it, and he doesn't point it, he doesn't shoot it. He watches, and he waits. And they start to leave. Good. Maybe this problem is over. The downhill SUV goes first. And the uphill SUV starts to go too. And the wraparound deck, Kevin has his gun, and he's walking, and he's looking. And he's walking, and he's looking. And he's walking, and he's looking, and he stumbles, and he bangs the gun. And it goes off. But the SUVs keep going. Nobody stops. Good. It's over. Thank God nobody got hurt. He goes back inside, up those stairs to the loft, puts his gun away safely. He unloads that third round that it was in there. He goes to his wife in the closet. She's on the floor. He picks her up. He takes her revolver and puts it away. He picks up the shells that she dropped. He wraps his arms around her. She's crying and sobbing. It's over, Jinx. Thank God nobody got hurt. Despite this, they will ask you to convict this man. This vicious, heinous, evil, black-hearted crimes. Fear is probably the most primitive emotion that we have. It has one job: keep you alive. There are things that we know now that Kevin didn't know. We know now that these were teenagers and not a band of marauding bikers. Kevin didn't know that. We know now that they were lost and not looking for a house to break into. Kevin didn't know that. We know now that they were going to a party and simply turned up the wrong driveway. Kevin didn't know that. They were lost, but they didn't act like lost. As the evidence unfolds, I'll ask you to draw on your own common sense, your own experiences. When you're lost in the country where there's no lights and no cell signal, Is it unusual to think the motorcyclist might take his helmet off, knock on the door, ring the doorbell? Is it a strange thing to think that someone in the SUV might roll down the window, explain that they're lost? No one is here to blame Kaylin Gillis. All of our hearts grieve for her, pity her family. The community is diminished by her loss. But as Mr. Morris told you, you know he didn't kill her intentionally. He's not charged with that. He's charged with acting with recklessness and depravity, a wicked motive, an evil, black heart, not caring whether anyone lives or dies. While the evidence is unfolding, I'm going to ask you to keep some questions in mind. If he really had an evil, wicked, blackened heart, why not fire at those two SUVs when they're stationary?
Objection, Your Honor. Argumentative. Sustained.
As the evidence comes out, look for ways that he could have shown depravity. See if he did. See if he had an opportunity to fire and didn't. See if Mr. Morris can answer that with his proof. See if he can answer whether there was an opportunity to shoot that motorcyclist, but didn't. See if there was an opportunity to shoot those SUVs when they came closer, when they backed up so the rear of the vehicle was facing the house, where they were sitting ducks, but didn't. Ask yourself, as you hear the evidence, why wait till they were leaving, which is what he was trying to accomplish? Why wait to fire at a moving target? Maybe you will think that it was dumb when you hear the evidence. Maybe you'll think it was dumb to go outside wearing flip-flops. Maybe it was. And maybe you will think that it was dumb to go out on that deck in the first place. Maybe it was. Or to bring a gun. And maybe it was. Or to have a gun that is defective or broken, that will fire when no one pulls the trigger. And maybe it was. But we have a word for being dumb. It isn't recklessness. It isn't depravity. It isn't having an evil, wicked, black heart. So, here sits the man. Here sits the man. And at the end, you will have to decide, is he a monster with an evil, wicked, black heart?
Objection, Your Honor. Please approach.
Okay, so the attorneys and I had a conference, and I'm gonna ask the jury to strike the term monster, and at the end of the trial, I will instruct you on the law of what depraved indifference is. Attorney Frost?
Thank you, Judge. You will have to decide the act with an evilness, a wickedness, a wantonness, a heinous disregard for the value of human life. Or was he a dumb, scared old man with a defective gun that will shoot when no one pulls the trigger? In the end, I'm going to ask you to say 2 words. Not guilty. Because this was a terrible accident. And somebody should have realized that.